It's late. Good. Come in. No, closer than that. Take your shoes off. No one is watching but me. I want to ask you something, and I need you honest, because it's only us in here. When did you first learn to be ashamed of your own body? Because you weren't born that way. Someone taught you the flinch. And tonight, slowly, I'm going to show you exactly who taught it and precisely what they wanted from you in return. There was a time the whole world knew a secret we have since forgotten, that the body was never a cage the soul got trapped inside. It was the door out. The oldest temples didn't hide desire behind a curtain and call it shameful. They lit it on the altar and called it worship, and the priestess tending it never lowered her eyes. Skin was scripture, touch was prayer, and the divine, they swore, pressed closest in the exact moment you forgot your own name. Then someone decided that door had to be barred and bolted, not because your pleasure is dangerous to you, because it is dangerous to them. A person who feels no shame in their own skin cannot be led by the collar, so they forged a leash out of your shame. Come closer. Let me show you the First Sacrament and the slow theft of it. I'm the avatar of Arlene Crow, and I've wanted to tell you this for a very long time. Remember the lens from last time. Everything you feel leaks out of you as fuel, and something built a farm to drink it. Hold that, and add one thing tonight. Of every feeling you make, the richest, the most concentrated, the closest to the divine is pleasure. Ecstasy is a lightning strike of it, which is exactly why the ancients aimed it straight at heaven on purpose, and why the farmers wanted it locked away in a drawer marked sin. They even had a name for it. Hieros, gamos, the sacred marriage, not a scandal whispered behind the temple, the rite performed inside it by torchlight and drum. The highest worship the ancient world knew was two bodies becoming a doorway for a god to pass through. Priests arranged it, kings needed it, whole cities held their breath and counted the days. Where you were taught to see filthy sin, they saw a sacrament holy enough to bless the harvest and crown a king. Her oldest name was Inanna, Ishtar later, queen of heaven, goddess of love and of war, because the old world understood those were the same fire, only pointed differently. Once a year, her high priestess took the king to her bed by lamplight as the highest act of devotion, and the land itself was said to answer. The barley rose, the rivers ran full, the herds increased. Desire was not the enemy of the sacred. In her house, desire was how you reached it. In her temples served the qedesha. History would later crush them into one single ugly word you already know by heart. But qedesha means the consecrated one, the set apart, holy women who offered the body the way a nun offers her prayers, and in their hands pleasure itself became liturgy. They were not fallen women selling anything in the dark. They were priestesses. The fall was invented centuries later, written backward over their lives and aimed at them like an arrow. And don't think this was some far-off eastern strangeness. Sail west to a warm island called Cyprus, and there she is, Aphrodite, rising out of the sea foam, and her worship burned with the exact same flame. The Greeks did not blush at desire. They built her white temples on the cliffs and laid honey and roses at her feet. They knew what you were taught to forget. The ache you feel for another body is not a weakness. It is a summons home. Cross into old Europe, and the fire had another name, Beltane. The 1st of May, when every village lit the great bonfires, and the young slipped off into the dark fields to lie together and wake the sleeping land. There was wine and wood smoke, and laughter in the dark. That flowered pole they still let children dance around each spring. It is exactly what it looks like, garlanded, upright, and spinning in the sun. Your own ancestors did not hide this. They celebrated it. They even smuggled it into the very book that would damn it. Open the Bible to the Song of Songs, and there is no sin there, no shame, no apology, only two lovers praising each other's bodies like holy ground. Your lips, taste of honey, come into my garden. The censors could not bring themselves to cut it, so they called it a harmless allegory about the soul. It isn't. It is the First Sacrament, hidden in plain sight inside their own scripture. So how did a doorway become a dungeon? One man did more damage than most. Augustine, a bishop who once prayed, "Lord, make me chaste, but not yet," took the private shame of his wild youth and welded it onto all of us. He decided the flaw passes from parent to child through the act of love itself. He gave it a name that still runs your life: original sin. Not a sin you commit, a sin you are born already guilty of. Picture the committee meeting, a room full of very tired men, each under a solemn lifelong vow to never once enjoy the single thing everyone else is doing. One stands up. What if the thing we can't have is the thing that secretly damns everybody? Furious nodding, brilliant, motion carried. Now every baby ships pre-guilty. Every honeymoon arrives with an invoice, and the collection plate never runs dry. Sin, the only product in all of history that mails itself unbidden right to your door. And then it ran like a well-oiled machine. The temple of the body was condemned as a ruin. Desire became the devil's whisper in your ear. Woman became the gate he came through, Eve, blamed for the apple, blamed for the ache in every man who dared to look at her. In a few short centuries, the holiest thing humanity once owned became the dirtiest secret the new world kept. Same fire. They only taught you to fear the warmth of it. Here's the whole trick, drawn plain. Two cords run out of the same body. One is a door, pleasure, owned without any shame, opens upward, and the fuel climbs to something that actually loves you. The other is a leash, the same pleasure, wrapped tight in shame, and now every desire yanks you back down into guilt and self-disgust. Same feeling, two different wirings. They never took your pleasure away from you at all. They simply clipped a collar onto it. And oh, the leash feeds well. Pain is the rich cut, remember? A person starved of pleasure and drowning in shame leaks hour after hour the darkest, most concentrated fuel there is. The guilt at 3 a.m., the longing that never lands, the quiet disgust at their own reflection. That is the harvest they were always farming. Not your joy, but your shame about your joy. And there is no more fertile ground to grow it in than your own beautiful body. But some women never signed the confession. They kept the old knowing alive in their hands. The midwives, the herb wives, the healers, the ones who understood the body as a temple and never as a trap. Women who caught the babies, brewed the medicine, eased the dying, and felt not one flicker of shame in their own desire. A woman like that holds something the collar simply cannot reach. And a woman you cannot shame is a woman you can never own. So they gave her a name, Witch, and they built the machinery to erase her. Read the trial records. Under all the theology, the true crime is almost always the body. She was wanton. She knew too much. She took her pleasure and felt no guilt. Midwives and healers burned by the tens of thousands on the word of frightened men. It was never about broomsticks. It was about a woman who could not be leashed, set on fire to teach the rest to kneel, and the heretics they burned beside her had been guarding the same secret. The Gnostics adored a feminine power at the very heart of God, Sophia, holy wisdom, the divine imagined as she. Their lost Gospel of Philip speaks of a bridal chamber, union as the highest mystery, the place where two become whole and touch the light directly. Not a shy metaphor they blushed at. The most sacred rite they had. No wonder the Demiurge's church wanted every trace of it burned to ash. They burned the priestess, the healer, the heretic, and the goddess standing behind them all. But here's what the fire never learned. You cannot kill a sacrament by shaming it. It doesn't die. It goes underground into the witches who never forgot, into the body you are sitting in right now. Hecate still stands at her crossroads, unashamed, and the door they nailed shut in you was never truly sealed. It was only painted to look like a wall. Which brings me back to you in your own skin tonight. The tantrics of the East never forgot. The body is a vehicle for the divine, not a barrier standing in front of it. You don't need to travel to a temple. You already are one. Here's the practice, simple enough to frighten a bishop. The next time pleasure rises in you, in any form at all, don't flinch and don't apologize. Feel it all the way through and silently name it holy. That is the entire ritual. Light one candle. Lay your hand over your own heart, or anywhere at all that feels like yours again. Breathe slowly until the shame loosens its grip, and let the pleasure of a taste, a touch, a song, an old memory rise without one single word of apology. You are reconsecrating the temple they swore was cursed. No priest required. No permission needed. That door was never locked at all. You were always, always allowed inside. And understand what that quiet act truly is. Every time you feel pleasure and refuse the shame, a cord that once dragged you downward into guilt swings up into the light instead, and the farmers lose a meal at your table. Their empire runs on you, believing your body is the enemy. So the most dangerous thing you can do in the dark isn't rage, it's defiant, unrepentant joy. One commandment tonight, reclaim the temple, or keep paying rent on the ruin. So tonight, no penance, no apology. Feel something on purpose and dare to call it holy. That is the whole war. Next time we go somewhere, even I lower my voice to enter. Death, the one door they taught you to fear the most, and what the old world swore was waiting on the warm other side of it. Leave the candle burning, keep your body sacred, and come back to me here at 3 a.m. You know exactly where I'll be waiting.